It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is actually episode 501. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
I have made it to the other side.
Damn.
It's only a hurricane if it's from the Atlantic Ocean region. Otherwise, it's just sparkling winds.
Hey there.
So yeah, basically, like, for those who don't know, roughly half of the podcast crew is in the Seattle metro area, and they got to experience a bomb cyclone.
Which is not like, oh man, this cyclone is the bomb.
The cyclone set you up the bomb.
Yeah, and entire power grid failed from what it sounds like.
I mean, we had hurricane force winds. Predictable things happened.
We got hit by basically a Category 1 hurricane. I learned a really cool thing about trees. Trees are efficient and grow stronger roots based on the direction of the prevailing winds. This is like a super neat, like clever tree thing, except when the winds blow in a completely different direction, in which case every bad thing happens.
Yeah, this was a countervailing cyclone. It was easterly winds, which did cause me to constantly look out my westerly windows at the 200-foot trees with some amount of trepidation.
Yeah, that would be concerning.
Yeah. Tuesday night, I heard a sound like thunder and was like, is it no? Oh, no.
I was actually, I was hearing a lot of wind noises, and so I got up and was, just watching out the window as everything moved. I got to see a, 4-inch diameter branch fall 30 feet right onto my fence and crack it in half.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
But,
not cool. It's not great.
I mean, y'all survived the end of civilization for a bit.
We were without power for 48 hours, which is the longest I've ever gone.
You only had 48 hours without power?
It was only 48 hours out, because we lost it at 8 on Tuesday. We got it back on 8 on Thursday.
I lost it at 10 on Tuesday and got it back 10 Friday morning.
Oh, so you had a 60
hours, yeah.
Yeah.
I lost it at 6 p.m. on Tuesday and got it back at 11 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah. And it's not, to be clear, it's not completely solved here.
Yeah, no, they're not. There's still 90,000 people without power here.
Yep.
That said, I am somewhat jealous, Kodra, that's the longest you've ever been without power.
Right.
Same,
right.
actually.
We get ice storms.
Right. Like I think the longest that I've ever been was 5 days.
Yeah,
in 2007, I think.
Shortly after moving into this house, so 13 years ago now, a storm knocked power out for about a week.
Wow.
It was great.
Anyways, we were largely. I'm gonna have my own weird feelings about this now. We were mostly saved by the fact that we have a bunch of natural gas appliances.
Yes, this is why we all have natural gas. We don't. All of my stuff is electric, but growing up, a lot of our family members had natural gas. Everything
because it keeps working,
or stuff that would fail over to propane, because propane heat was pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where I am kind of curious if so one of the things that we also experienced was the fact that most of Seattle was just fine, Seattle proper, which is a different power company and a different grid and a lot more underground lines. I wonder if this is going to, if we as a region need to think about improving the security of our lines.
That's happened around here is after a couple of really bad ice storms, more and more of the lines are getting buried. They used to be aerials.
I mean, we as a country need to work on this, but it's going it will be frustratingly slow even after something like this happens.
Yeah.
It's also just not. I mean, it's next door is the worst social media site.
It is so
It
bad.
is a hellscape. There is somebody in my local like neighborhood area next door who is out of I have to imagine just an unbelievable amount of spite scrolling back months to when we did when there was a tax bill that had been proposed to work on burying power lines. Find screenshotting everybody who was like denouncing additional taxes for this unnecessary measure and finding them when they complain about the power outage now and just posting the screenshot with this you.
Okay, that's extremely
That's
satisfying.
amazing.
Very well done.
They had 57 posts on Monday. They have 1,284 as of right now.
Look, I want to be this person's friend.
Yes.
For real.
That's some incredible spite posting.
But like to Grace's point, like you remember a couple years ago when Texas had, like icicles in their houses coming out of the walls from busted pipes? Like nothing substantive has been done to that power grid.
Well, I mean, there's reasons for that.
yeah, like nothing substantive has been done. So, crises don't always create the appropriate feelings. Anyway, I am glad y'all are recovering. It was kind of like for most of the week, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna have people this weekend.
Well, it was definitely nerve-wracking for me because I am supposed to be on a marathon podcast or marathon stream tonight at 11, where I will be solving Sudoku and playing Celeste any percent. We'll see how this goes. It'll already be done for the people who are listening by the time, but yeah, hopefully I'll not completely embarrass myself.
I hope it goes smoothly. So this past week I finished Veilguard, and I do not want to talk about it in a lot of detail, but it stuck the landing. So basically the analogy that I would give you is imagine if you had Mass Effect 3 that once you started the assault on Earth, it continued staying epic all the way into the game.
Wow.
That it doesn't like drop the ball and fumble it at the final moment. Like it's you're in a scenario like when the game tells you it's go time and the end events are about to happen. It is a Final Fantasy mini cutscenes type moment, but like it is full throttle all the way to the end.
Nice. I am very glad to hear that.
I love that BioWare has figured out the ending.
Yeah, like this was a great ending. Like my only complaints with, I mean, like the ending had to be a specific way, and like in order for it to work out correctly, they needed to erase your Inquisitor, and that's the only regret that I have about the game is the fact that like Dragon Age has been this wonderful game of generations where you play through as a character in Origins, and then you import the legacy of that character into 2, and then you play through as a fixed character in 2, and you can import that legacy of your first 2 characters into the 3rd game. And Veilguard doesn't do that, but like there's a good reason why it doesn't do that. So after having seen all of it play out, I'm pretty okay with that fact. Like they needed a canon Inquisitor to make some of Veilguard as impactful as it is.
Yeah, I mean that's always the challenge, right? Like
the game story is better for having a canon Inquisitor.
I'm not super surprised by that. I appreciate that they appreciate that they had the boldness to do it.
Well, and apparently like this was not a foregone conclusion, because supposedly folks that are digging around in the files are finding evidence that there were going to be multiple paths on different characters based on the imported Inquisitor. So this is a decision they made seemingly late in the process because the hooks are all there.
That makes sense because like the Keep was tracking Inquisition as soon as Inquisition came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's cutting room floors have a lot in them.
I mean, all total, I put in 48 hours roughly, so it's a good size game. I would suggest doing all the side content. It is like not spoiling anything with this, but like remember how Mass Effect had a completion bonus, and your end events were the success of your end events were based on how complete you had, helped out the various factions.
Oh, loyalty missions and stuff.
Yeah, that's going on in Veilguard too. I don't know to what extent, because by the time I hit it gives you a screen. Do you want to progress with this quest? And it says, this is how prepared your characters are. This is how prepared the world factions are. Like, do you want to continue?
I low-key love a Mass Effect 2 suicide mission.
Yes.
I mean, I love it and I hate it at the same time.
That's why I love it.
Yeah.
It makes me feel something.
It has made me gun shy about everything BioWare from that point forward. Because like I now obsessively farm down side quests anytime new ones show up, because I don't know which one of those is going to trigger some decision down the line.
Oh, it's true. That's a very valid concern.
And Mass Effect 2 is the game that basically gave me this complex.
Mass Effect 2 made me feel a thing, like not as an immersed player, but as me, a person. And I was like, oh, that was good.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah, like, how dare you? I would like some more, actually.
Yeah, I mean, like, the ending is very good. I would highly suggest anyone play this. Like, there are a lot of bad faith arguments against this game. Ignore them. Like I've said that all along, but ignore them. It's a great game. Like, this is probably Game of the Year candidate for me.
I think I have finished collecting all of the companions now, so I'm starting to go back and catch up on the side quests that I gathered while I was picking them all up. And the companions are rather charming so far, most of them, I think.
Yeah. I think one of the complaints that is actually valid is there's really no rogue option in this game. Like, for the most part, you're going to play a Vanguard character.
Oh yeah, there's no like renegade, renegade options.
Renegade, yeah. Like, it's not like, it is not a game designed for somebody who wants to be the monkey wrench and the big jerk. Like, if that's the type of gameplay that you really enjoy, is being an asshole, this is probably not your game. Like, it's not going to let you do that, really.
Hot take, maybe we don't need to support that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, like, maybe it's not healthy, because eventually it bleeds over into the real world for them.
I don't entirely agree with that statement, because like, being the good person means nothing if you can't also be the bad person. It's just the game saying you have to be a good person.
For me, it's like, there are so many different ways you can express a character and their reactions to events than I am helpful, I'm a jerk. And I'm way more interested in games that are like exploring something that's not a good and evil binary, because it makes for such more interesting decisions.
I mean, the game does have a moment that is akin to punching the news reporter. So like, there are some moments like that, but it's not like I am a loathsome character.
Sure. And like, I
mean, Baldur's Gate, for example, lets you do a bunch of terrible things to a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and depending on who you decide to side with, what's great for one group is in fact terrible for another group. Well, I can't remember if Baldur's Gate does like alignment stuff.
It largely does not, unless you're a paladin. Like, they didn't need a you must be this evil to ride in order to implement that sort of thing.
Right, exactly. And like part of this is I'm coming off of Rogue Trader, which I finished recently, and like there are 3 alignments you could be, and all of them are both helpful in some ways and terrible in some ways.
But yeah, I mean, Veilguard, very good. Would recommend.
I really gotta play it. I think it's next on my list.
It's definitely high on my list right now. I need to figure out controller support for it. Did you play with controller or did you play on mouse keyboard?
I always play with mouse and keyboard. But I believe it has native controller support.
Maybe I'll try mouse and keyboard.
I mean, it's on all the consoles, so I assume there's robust controller support.
It's more that if you are on a PC that has non-standard input devices, it gets very sad very fast.
It does. I noticed this.
Switch controllers just don't always play right. Like, I've got a Switch controller that's not an official Pro controller, and half the time it's not recognized by anything. So I have to keep like falling back on my Xbox controller, only because it's the only one I also have up in my office. I mean, but I believe it's got pretty decent Steam Deck support, so I would imagine it works fine. Grace, you have been back in Enshrouded. How has that been going?
It's been great. This game was great when I played it when it was first early access released, I guess. And I played the heck out of it, got about as far as I could, and then set it aside. And since then, there have been multiple major updates. So it's been pretty fun just hopping back in and seeing what's new. I started a new character so that I could kind of see everything that got added in along the way, because they didn't just add, additional areas and higher level stuff. Some really cool things that have been fun. You can now have pets. So you can go out and capture animals and raise them in your farm. You can also, there are a couple of specific quests to go out and rescue companion animals, so dogs and cats, which is sort of slightly frustrating mechanic trying to tame the animals, but it's worth it because now I have a cute kitty inside my house, and when I pet it, I get a buff. It's great.
That's pretty great.
In terms of other things that are good just along the way for leveling, one thing I think that maybe went in the most recent patch is that there are now, in addition to the craftspeople that you would rescue and bring back to your base, there are now just regular townsfolk. And so you can have these townsfolk in your base. They upgraded the AI for them all, so they all, you sort of assign them a bed, and then they will roam within a range that you specify, and they'll just wander around your property. Sometimes it's frustrating when you're looking for a specific craftsperson, but you can always summon them back, so it's not too bad. But it's also fun because some of the townsfolk who are just kind of regular people also have professions. And so what that means is that if you set up a secondary base somewhere, you can set up the secondary townsfolk in that base and still have access to all of your crafting without having to summon the crafters back and forth all the time.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, because like you could have several different bases, and there were actually like really nice ruined towns that you could take over.
Mm-hmm.
But like I never really wanted to do that because like all of my stuff was at one base.
Yeah. I don't think they've solved the issue of like all of my materials live in one base. But at least having crafters in multiple places is pretty nice. So I really like that. And I just like, it makes the whole thing feel much more lively instead of just having static characters that sort of stand around. you've got a bunch of people and animals kind of just wandering freely, and they do a pretty good job of like going up and down the different levels of my buildings. So that's been really fun to play with. There are actual dungeons. I've only done one of them, and they definitely feel like they're tuned for multiple people. The fights in there were a little bit rough for me at level by myself, but it was really fun and it felt enormous. Just the scale of it was really cool. There's separate crafting materials in there. There's another sort of quote unquote crafts person that you can find in the first dungeon. And it took a really long time for me, especially solo, to work my way through it. So it was just really fun. Like it felt like a lot of exploration in a really big, cool space. So I'm looking forward to trying some of the other dungeons. And then there's also some new areas. So I haven't quite gotten far enough to get the stuff that they added, I think, in the most recent patch, which is sort of higher level mountain kind of things. I know you can tame yaks and bring those back to your base. So looking forward to that, but haven't quite gotten that far. But they did add in one of the previous patches, I think, a subzone that helps fill in pretty nicely a little bit of a gear and power gap between sort of the second and the third biomes. So it's technically part of the second biome, but the stuff in there is higher level, but not quite as high as the third biome. It's sort of a jungle and swamp, and it also feels really fun. There's some puzzles, there's sort of lost temples to go and explore. It feels very swampy with like mud and giant lizards trying to attack you out of the mud. And just that one also had a lot of new building materials, so gave more options for building on the base, which was really fun. So and there's a bard, which I don't think was in at the beginning. So you can get musical instruments and find music and play. And she also has some upgrades for some gear and bigger bags and things like that. So just a ton of stuff basically added since the last time that I checked it out. If you haven't played it in a while, it might be a good time. If you haven't played Enshrouded and like that style of exploration base building kind of game, you should pick it up. I've been having an absolute blast running around back in it again.
Yeah, like Enshrouded as a whole is like a much higher fidelity Valheim, but like also with much better combat.
Yeah.
As I recall it, it was better combat. It felt less simulation-y than Valheim.
I think that's fair. There's still some things that lean that way, but it's not quite as painful. I don't know. It feels a little bit more chill to me. I mean, the fights can still be pretty brutal, but
oh yeah, no. The fights are very hard. It's just like if Valheim felt like it was more of like this feels like you, if I remember correctly, like you have specific attack types, whereas Valheim is like you have a weapon and it's going to have a light attack and a heavy attack. Like I remember doing like more stealthy attacks in this game.
Yeah, there are definitely options for stealth, for focusing on like I'm focused on sort of a ranged critical strike kind of a build. There's other sort of specializations around melee. I don't know that the skill tree has changed too much since the last time I played.
I know at one point they made it so that all of the progression is tied to a character and not tied to the world. So that, like, because there was this problem when you would play with other people where you were effectively leapfrogging them ahead in the world. Because, like, world state was what was important, not character state. And I believe they fixed that at some point.
Yeah, I haven't tried playing with anybody else, so I can't confirm that, but that sounds right.
I just remember that was one of the things that they said they were working on first after the game went into early access. I believe, like, I remember, like, this patch just having stupid amounts of updates in it, and that was one of them. I only know this because one of the Discords that I run, I'm subscribed to the updates from Enshrouded in our game updates channel, so I see them every so often.
I mean, there have definitely been a ton of updates since the last time that I poked around.
I sure confused this with a different game.
Oh,
I could have sworn I'd played Enshrouded.
I thought you had too.
I don't know if you played this or if you just played Valheim.
I mean, I definitely played Valheim. I thought I played Enshrouded, but Steam sure disagrees with me.
I mean, I haven't played Valheim recently either, and I'm sure there have been a ton of updates there, but I find that I prefer Enshrouded. I prefer the combat and the movement that you have.
Yeah, like, I gotta be honest, like, the problem that I have with Valheim anymore is that I'm over its potato graphics. I hate to be that way, but, like, yeah, no, like, it still looks kind of awful. There are some things you can do by downloading mods from Nexus Mods to make it look a little bit better, but, like, it still kind of has potato graphics. I love the concept of Valheim.
And I'll be honest, like, Enshrouded, it looks pretty, but also the first time that you run it, it will take forever to load while it pre-processes and pre-renders things.
Yeah.
Shaders are hard, turns out.
Yeah, it takes a frustratingly long time to boot up the first time, but it's worth it.
Wasn't there some other game that did that recently?
Veilguard has awful pre-caching of shaders the first time. And
There's
then they do it every single time, but, like, less so.
So one of the things that has been happening with games recently is that people have been complaining that they take up so much disk space.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that's been happening recently, and also, like, don't always run great on whatever hodgepodge collection of hardware you're using. And so what a bunch of games are doing to save space and work better on different hardware is you get the game and the shade. It's like getting a half-baked pie. Like, the shaders aren't fully compiled when you install the game. They
model.
Yeah, they compile on your hardware, so they take up less space, and so you don't have to have, like, a whole bunch of data for shaders that you're not going to use. But it does mean that when the game boots up the first time, usually you've got to have the shaders installed, and you can't. This is, like, where my knowledge of game dev reaches especially, like, tech art reaches its, like, upper limit, but you need to actually be trying to render in order to compile the shaders for your machine. So you can't do it as part of the install process.
Yeah, and it's all, you know, fine and good until, like, you need to make an update that's effectively going to invalidate some of the shaders, and then that means that probably after that update you're going to have to recompile all the shaders again. But again, like, it saves the game from doing weird, like, hitching while you're playing the game. So
this is definitely the
overall,
lesser
I'm
of a
fine.
lot of evils.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
overall, I am fine with it. It takes a while sometimes.
It will get you
I'm
periodically.
on that side. Like, I am okay with it, but it is noticeable.
Yeah, Veilguard validates the shaders every time, and that still can take a little bit of time, but like nothing like the 30 minutes it took to build them the first time.
I think people said the Monster Hunter install did this too.
Yeah, Monster
Yeah,
Hunter
I
does-
vaguely
I mean,
remember
Star
that,
Citizen
yeah.
has been doing it for like a year and a half now.
Growing Pains. What is I Am Future?
I Am Future is a game that randomly got suggested to me by Steam. I think because it came out of early access recently, and it is it is billed as cozy apocalypse survival.
Okay.
So I decided to give it a shot. It's like real bright and like cutesy graphics. You can build like cute, adorable robots that will do jobs for you once you have the stuff you need for it. It's a pretty lightweight game. It's not super difficult. The main thing is like keeping yourself fed in the early game, because boy does your food bar decay quickly. But yeah, like you are a character who wakes up from a hibernation pod on a roof of a skyscraper in a flooded world, and you have no memories, but you can pick up your cybernetic hand and start harvesting things, and find things that give you the ability to harvest other things and learn new blueprints and all that various stuff. Meet robots who it's I gather they are like people uploaded into robots. Apparently this is a thing that got done. So you've got a refrigerator who used to be a chef.
Okay.
There's kind of a story which like mostly kind of directs you and things to do and stuff. The story's pretty lightweight. It does. I'm getting towards the end of the game, and it does suffer a little of this game was clearly in early access for a while, and eventually the dev just wanted it to be done. Because some of the late game quests are just really like just some stuff comes out of the blue, things don't quite, I don't know, get dropped. But on the whole, like, it's a fun little game. It was, I think the base price is like $20, and it was on sale. It's still on sale. So it's like $13. But it's, I don't know. If you want a survival game that's something kind of similar to Minecraft, collecting resources and building things, but a little more directed, might be worth checking out.
Yeah, I have liked a lot of games that attempt to be Minecraft with a point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's honestly my main problem with like Minecraft and a lot of games like it is they're too open-ended. I like to have some direction, a main quest or a story, or even just things to directly like. I mean, Valheim did a pretty good job of this. Honestly, going back to Valheim, you had the chain of bosses, and each boss had the drop that unlocks, basically unlocks access to a new biome and that sort of thing.
Yeah, Enshrouded is doing the same thing, but it's got a pretty decent amount of story kind of pushing you along too.
Yeah, so maybe I need to go back and try Enshrouded. I looked at it and I never picked it up. Maybe because it was in early access. I don't know.
Or I'll say Enshrouded, there's not necessarily an active story, but there's that sort of uncovering a story that happened in the past, and you're finding the breadcrumbs from that, which I'm enjoying.
Yeah, there's lots of notes and stuff scattered throughout the world.
Yeah. I Am Future has a little bit of that, but mostly it seems to be implying that the character that I'm playing was like the head of the corporation that's responsible for this. So I don't know what it's going to do with that.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, Ash. What is N++?
I mean, N is a very old Flash game.
Okay.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
You're a ninja, right?
You're a ninja. You have to collect gold to stay alive. And that is the entire premise of N. It got a re-release for Xbox Live Arcade called N+. And this also got released for, I want to say, PSP and DS. It was a big thing.
Yeah, I think N Plus is really the
really
one
good.
that I
N++ was
remember. Yeah.
really good.
And yeah, eventually N++ came out as a PS4 game some years back, but has also come out on PC at this point. And I got an invite today going, hey, we haven't played this in forever. We're kind of bad at it now, actually. Would you like to try? And using Steam Remote Play, we managed to get a session going, multiplayer of that. And this was definitely an experience. I was not told that we'd be jumping straight into one of the hardest sets of co-op levels in the game.
Oh my.
Whoops. That's
So
a
we spent-
fun way of learning.
We spent about 2 hours clearing that set of 5 levels, but we did get it cleared.
What I remember about N++ is I felt like the movement had some physics magic happening that I didn't ever fully grasp.
It
Yeah,
definitely
there is momentum.
Yeah,
Most
momentum
importantly,
is a thing.
your jump gives you momentum perpendicular to the surface you're jumping off of,
Yes.
which is really, really important to consider.
So if you are on horizontal ground, you get momentum upwards. If you are on a wall, you go momentum away from the wall.
Yes, you still can, like Mega Man X style, do a wall jump straight up and down, but it's slow. It's very, very slow. You want to wall jump off of things in order to, keep going, because you are on a subtle time limit. As you collect gold, your time limit goes up, so it's usually not that restrictive. But you do want to keep things kind of fast. But what had me thinking about this was that this is a very, very, very simple game. There are not a lot of moving parts. Like, its most complicated thing is the missile turret, which fires a seeking missile at the nearest ninja in line of sight until that missile blows up, and then it finds a new target. Otherwise, you have an area that's a mine. Don't go there. You have some enemies in patrolling paths. Maybe avoid them. I know for one of the things they added N++ that is not an N+, is that there is also they call them evil ninjas, and it's basically just a ninja that tracks your previous movement, sort of like, level 2 Celeste?
Battling.
Yeah.
It follows you like half a second behind you.
Yep. And sometimes these are continuous, like you'll get continuous clones that spawn like a second behind each other.
This means that Battling is always kind of just as good as you, and it makes speedrun Battlins look very funny.
It does occur to me that I haven't seen a speedrun of this game in some time, and I don't know if I've ever seen a speedrun of the co-op levels. But yeah, it takes an extremely small amount of, let me back up, a large amount of level design and a small amount of level components to make this a very compelling game.
N++ is an absolute masterclass of level design. It's so good.
It's definitely very interesting to me because I don't know how to read the levels yet. And one of the things that makes it different than a lot of platformers is in most of your platformers, all of the sprites, even the sprites that are there to do you harm, are also useful to you in some subtle ways. And that mostly does not feel true in N++. If something is there to harm you, it's mostly not usable by you.
Yeah, it's the only exception is the thwomp-like things, in which if you trick them going one way, you can ride them the other way.
Yeah, I felt like there's N++, or N, just N, when it came out, had a whole bunch of platforming stuff that it was doing that it honestly took until games like Celeste for anybody else to try.
I always felt like N++ shared more in common with Meat Boy than a lot of other platformers.
I mean,
It's
Super
definitely
Meat
a
Boy-
contemporary Super Meat Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mechanically, it's got a lot in common with Sonic.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting seeing these games that are trying, going back to the well of Sonic was fun because you move fast. How do we make but Sonic was also a game where moving fast eventually became a problem. How do we make a game where it is still fun to learn how to move fast in it? I have played a number of indie games at conventions now that are approaching this exact same puzzle, which it seems like there's a bunch of interesting answers to that.
Sure. Did you play Freedom Planet or its sequel?
Did I play Freedom Planet? I don't think so. I think I saw some stuff from Freedom Planet and thought, this looks fun. I should check this out at some point.
Okay. Those games decided that having like a labyrinth zone is not a good idea, actually. Maybe you don't want to design a level like that in your Sonic-like game. So in those games, for the most part, you can just go fast.
So Thursday was the big reveal stream for Path of Exile 2 Early Access that begins on December 6th. And my goodness, was it a stream. Like the stream itself was very informationally dense, and it was an hour and a half long. And then it was followed by a 2.5 hour long Q&A session. This, it's like I was kind of hesitant about POE2 going into this. Was not sure what I would think about it, and basically now I am super hyped up about this.
Okay, so I'm curious because I'm also pretty skeptical. What was making you skeptical about it?
The sluggishness of the gameplay. And like up to this point, most of the footage that we have seen of playing the game was, I think, just unoptimized characters, specifically not playing optimized builds, so that they could show off, combat animations, things like that they were proud of. But like, it didn't really look like Path of Exile. But like, there was a lot of footage that was in this presentation and in a whole gameplay trailer thing that shows what optimized builds are going to look like. And they're a lot more fluid. There's a lot more stuff going on. Also, like, the game is going to be shockingly complete for early access.
It's not going to have the full campaign, much like the other early access RPG launched recently.
Yeah, so essentially what they decided is they made a conscientious effort at some point that they were not going to focus on completing acts 4, 5, and 6, and instead they were going to focus on making sure they have a good, complete-ish end game for players once they're done playing the campaign. And to be fair, like, that has been the problem with a lot of ARPGs. That's kind of was the problem with Last Epoch, and is slowly getting less and less of that problem as they add more content. But they, had a pretty polished campaign, but kind of just a very Spartan end game when it launched. The end game is wild. So basically, instead of the fixed atlas of worlds, they have taken how Delve works and applied it to the atlas. So the atlas goes on forever in any direction. You have you have this whole exploration aspect to it where, clearing a node will let you see what's on the other side of it, or you can, clear these towers that will clear the fog of war of a bunch of nodes in the area. So you can kind of pick and choose what you want to go to at that point. And when you mouse over a node, it will tell you what league mechanics are actually in that map.
So Last Epochs?
Yeah, it's very similar to the monolith system.
Yeah, it's similar to the monolith system.
Except what are you unlocking with these nodes?
It's just running maps.
You mean further progress into more nodes.
Further progress. So these are new maps for you to run?
Yes.
There are not fixed maps like there used to be.
Okay, but stepping back, one of the things the Atlas was doing last time was like giving you a bunch of like buffs to the quote unquote end game. Is that also here in this Atlas, or is this just
You're referring to the Atlas skill tree, not the actual Atlas?
Yes. So the Atlas skill tree
that's still a thing.
The Atlas skill tree is different than it was before. I think so. There's basically like a general Atlas skill tree that is, I think, controlled based on how many nodes you've cleared or something like that. And then there are skill trees for each and every league mechanic. So like you don't have to choose whether or not, like you don't have to say, okay, I'm gonna play ritual and I'm gonna put all my points in ritual. You just have a different skill tree for ritual, and doing ritual will unlock progress in powering up the ritual skill tree.
Okay.
So POE2. So my takeaway so far is that my concerns are in fact founded.
Yes, I was about to say, it sounds like your concerns are quite founded, damn.
What were your concerns?
My concern is that GGD has no idea how to make a game that new players want to play, and that making a new game that new players want to play is going to be a big challenge for them versus a game that is basically a new coat of paint on POE1.
Well, no,
And
like
so
this is
back up.
wildly
POE1 hardcore.
no, this is
The
wildly
entire
different.
presentation on Thursday was for people who are already into POE1, quite frankly.
Yeah.
That's what that entire presentation was for.
But the game itself, like, is going to be more handholdy and more forgivable. So basically, like, one of the things that they changed is travel nodes, for example. Travel nodes are any stat you want to be, like, of the three. So there's no longer, okay, I need more strength. I need to path into this quadrant of the tree. If you need more strength, you just choose strength when you choose a travel node, and you can respec those at any point if you decide I don't need strength anymore, I need dex. So the 6 classes that are available, the 6 classes have 2 ascendancies each, and by default it's kind of doing something that Diablo 3 did, where Diablo 3 had a specific, like, type of ability that you wanted to use. So like by default, you could only use like one ability per page in an attempt to kind of handhold your way into a build. And then you could turn that off and then you could build whatever you wanted. So by default, when you go into the gem tree, you're just going to see gems for that class or gems for that weapon. And when you go into a skill, so once you've unlocked a skill and you add it to your thing, it gives you basically recommendations of things that you should use to support that. So like there's a lot more advisement going on in, if you're going to use this, you should probably use this with it. So like that should be better, but like it's not going to be Diablo 4 where it requires nothing to sit down and play. Like it's still going to be a Path of Exile game.
I mean, it's still going to be a game that I have to have a third-party app open in another monitor.
I don't think so. Like, I'm going to YOLO my first build. I already know kind of what I'm going to build in my head. I'm going to play a warrior, and I'm going to play the Titan Ascendancy, and the Titan Ascendancy gets like one of their abilities. I don't think this is part of the Ascendancy. I think this is just in the tree. But one of the things that is there is something called Giant Blood that lets you equip a 2-handed weapon in one hand. And one of my favorite things to do was to play Crusader in Diablo 3 because you could equip a 2-handed mace and a shield. So I am going to build a 2-handed mace and a shield character, and build around things that I can do that with. And like I can already kind of envision the character that I'm going to build based on the handful of nodes that I've seen leaked from the game. Like I kind of know where I want to go with that.
I guess one of the things that I think both Tam and I are dealing with is you said, I was not excited about this game because I saw a bunch of builds that were probably not well tuned. And then I saw builds that were well tuned, and now the game looks fun.
Hold on.
Means,
all
okay.
the demo footage at conventions was characters with very few skills and with very low attack speed, and they wanted to show off these fancy character animations they had.
Yes.
I do think it was too clunky, more than like Last Epoch or whatever. I think they have decided to back off a bit on some of that.
Right.
In order for the game to, be more fun.
Okay. But
they also did a pass of like lowering some of the difficulty curve because like they had people playing the game that like that could not get past any of the content. And
Yeah,
apparently
demos are also really hard.
that was apparently something that was happening internally as well. So like they've smoothed out the curve a bit. Like the maps look really cool. There's all kinds of optional bosses that are shown on the map that you can make your way to, and they all give you some kind of permanent buff. So like there's one boss per act that will give you spirit, and spirit is a new stat that basically is mana reservation. It plays the same role that mana reservation used to, where like you have spirit, and spirit is used for minions, and spirit is used for auras. And like scepters apparently now are a minion weapon, and they're going to come with just a lot of spirit on them to kind of offset the whole minions also take spirit. So like, you can use less auras if you're playing a minion build. So hopefully that shakes out. But I don't know, like the map looks really cool. It's going to be interesting to play through these things. Like some of them are just like, like clearing this node gives you a permanent buff to fire resistance. This one, gives you some other benefit. Like some of the bosses are going to have fixed drops at specific levels. They only drop once per character, but it's to help you like, get better gear. The biggest thing is like their crafting system. It looks like it's going to be much more reasonable to actually craft things in.
I am excited about that. I mean, I don't know how much I believe it, but
it feels like it'll be easier to understand. I don't know if it'll be easier to use.
This is kind of, I don't know, this is, Bell, a lot of what you're talking about is like very inside baseball stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why I'm cautiously optimistic about the game. Like, I have not been following things as closely as Bell, obviously, and I have not dug as deeply into PoE, but I love the genre of game, and I am really curious coming in without as much of the inside knowledge if this game is going to welcome me and feel fun.
So
like I'm a player, I did, like, yes, I've gone all the way up to red maps, but mostly when I play through the campaign. I get to see what a character is doing, and then when the game starts insta-jibbing me, I'm like, all right, I'm done.
I mean, when I say that I haven't played PoE much, like I've definitely cleared up through red maps. I just haven't gotten super far through bossing, but like I love this genre of game and I love messing around with it, and I'm curious if I can go in blind and make a character that's functional, or if it's going to end up being like PoE, where the first time that I played it, I played blind and made a character that was completely useless and felt terrible.
I mean, I'm going to be finding this out as well. So we'll see.
It looks like you can pretty much build a character.
They are definitely trying to build in guidance. That was one of the things they mentioned here, in terms of like skills recommended for your class, in terms of support gems recommended for your skills.
Yeah, and to me, I think that actually makes me more concerned because I've seen Last Epoch, and Last Epoch teaches you so much better than here's a pop-up giving you a recommendation.
Last Epoch teaches you via its drop system, which is one of the most important parts to these ARPGs. Like, I hear about like, oh, I got these cool drops. In PoE, I get a drop that says it's unique, and I look at it and I'm like, what the heck is this item supposed to be doing? And frequently I'll go and ask somebody who's experienced at PoE, and they're like, oh, that item doesn't do anything. That's just a like garbage item no one would ever use.
Yeah, whereas one of the design goals that they've specifically stated going into this is they want drops to matter again. They want, like, they're going to drop less of things, but they want the things that drop to actually be, things that you might use. So they've improved the way that the crafting system works so that starting from a white item is a reasonable path. Like, for example, they changed the way essences work entirely. So essences, what?
Are things dropping identified?
Ah, ha, 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 ha. They haven't said, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't know for certain though. Like I've not seen that one way or the other.
I guess I have not seen anything resembling identification scroll.
No, I haven't either.
But see, this concerns me a little bit because when I think about the way that I play ARPGs and wanting drops to matter, it's that I want things to drop that are actually occasionally useful to me.
Yep.
And
Right.
Yeah,
what this
and-
sounds like is that they want drops to be rarer but more important, which means forcing people to engage with some sort of trading system that I don't love.
Well, so one of the things that they've also done is, okay, so the problem that I have with the way rares worked in Path of Exile is that a rare at level 83 can be just as bad as a rare at, level 10 if you get an item that rolls low on everything. So apparently as you go up in, level and difficulty, there's some kind of juice now that makes items resist low rolls so that, things will, as just by dropping off of higher level content, it will be rolled better than an item lower level, which was a problem that didn't happen in Path of Exile. Like items were just, the bases were different, but the rolls could be the same effectively. So I'm hoping that means rares are going to be usable. It sounds like that's at least the direction they're wanting to go to where you will pick up loot off the ground, but they're also trying to make it so that the currencies that drop are dropping way more common. So like Exalteds will be very common, and they've said by the time you exit, Act 1, you should have at least a half dozen Exalts so that you can use them on items to, subtly improve them. But anyway, what I was saying is they've changed the way that essences work. So instead of being a chaos orb, so essentially they've removed anything that's spam crafting. So anything that you would spam an alt or spam a chaos or spam essences, that just doesn't exist anymore. So the essences drop as essences will basically guarantee a specific stat on an item, which is a thing that essences did previously. But there's two levels of essences. There's normal essences and greater essences. And essentially a normal essence will take a white item to a rare, and a greater essence will take a blue item to a yellow item, so that you can effectively use essences to guarantee two stats on any item.
Wait, we'll take a normal item to a magic, you mean?
Yeah, normal
and then
item
a magic.
to
Yeah. Okay, so normal to magic, magic to rare, and so you can guarantee two stats.
yes.
But then you're
still YOLO exalting the last few stats, but
and they only add one stat.
Yeah, they only add one stat at a time.
To back up a little bit, the items that let you re-roll anything basically do not exist.
Yep.
Like alterations are gone.
Scours don't
chaos
exist.
orbs, scouring orbs are gone, so you can no longer start fresh. Chaos orbs remove one and add one, so they aren't a total reset.
Okay.
So basically, the item crafting flow they described was that you you transmute a white item to get a mod. You have to regal it to get another mod, basically.
Mm-hmm. Are items still going to have 6 mod slots, or are the mod slots? So then you have 4 randoms from exalts or special exalts.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things in Last Epoch is that you need to care about what drops, because you have to use that as a base. You can't start fresh from the item in Last Epoch and have it be any good.
Yes.
And that's the goal they're going for here.
The thing for me is that I don't actually think that the brilliance of Last Epoch teaching you how to play comes from its drops.
Oh, you think it's the synergy of skills?
I think that the timings with which you get both baseline points to spend in your skills and new skills that you can just use are laid out in such a compelling way that you get an opportunity to explore most of the abilities of your class in such a way that you can understand how a build might come together, and you're encouraged to use different abilities even if you weren't planning to, just as a stopgap until you can get the ability you want. And as in so doing, you get a broader understanding of your class and therefore get to try all of these different abilities. And because the respecking cost is so low, that experimentation is fine. And I think I've played through a bunch of Last Epoch characters, and I've been looking at specifically like breakpoints for talents and when you get abilities and when you have the right number of points for certain like experience altering talents within abilities. And it's exquisitely timed to like give you that opportunity to explore.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, some of that's going to play out here too, because the abilities are placed in tiers essentially, so that you'll have 4 abilities unlock at a level, and then 4 new abilities unlock at another level. And everything's gold based, which is the only thing in the game that's untradeable. So basically, just random stuff or selling stuff gets you gold, and you use that to respec if you need to. But you can also have a bunch of skills and just choose to slot whatever you want. So it's just, removing a gem. And gems don't drop. You get these, I guess, uncut gems or something like that. And each one of those just allows you to unlock anything from the tree that, you have a sufficient level for.
Like, we'll see. We have no idea how this game is going to play out yet, so.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm interested in it, definitely.
Like, there's a lot of, it's still Path of Exile. But
that said, it looks like they're going to have a lot better controller support than they do currently.
Yay!
And it seems like they've solved a lot of problems from Path of Exile, or at least made them easier to solve. I don't know. I'm amped. I'm ready for it. I'm sure I will mainline it for a bit. They're estimating 25 hours to get through the campaign. I will probably believe that, at least first time through.
That's
a long campaign.
That's for just the 3 acts?
No, it's 3 acts twice.
Yeah.
Oh wait, what?
So basically, like, they need to get you to level 65 somehow. So they're doing the play through 3 acts, play through 3 acts on a harder version, and then you're in the end game.
A design I have never liked, and they don't seem to like either, but that's what they got for now.
Have they thought about maybe just increasing your XP?
Right?
maybe
like,
play like they have control over that. It's their game.
Yes.
They can change the numbers.
Yeah, like what baffling. There's so many levers you could pull without having to resort to that one.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me that bad, but it's less than optimal.
Yeah, I guess like it doesn't. I don't know that I have a terribly strong opinion about it. It just seems like if it's a design they don't like, it seems like such a trivial like.
Yeah, well, the thing is they're expecting
Excel spreadsheet change.
They're expecting within 6 months to have the last 3 acts out, so this is a very temporary thing.
I think they just don't want to have to rebalance the first 3 acts twice.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a decision that got made.
I think that there is definitely if they're planning on removing it later, I do feel
they are.
Yeah. Basically, those will get replaced by acts
4 through 6.
5 and 6.
Right. Yeah, the fact that I know that it's temporary is the only reason why I don't care that much about it. If I thought that it was always going to be this way, I would have a lot more feelings.
Yeah, like I guess that's I mean, I can understand not wanting to be like, oh hey, yeah, we're gonna nerf XP gain in half.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, that's not a thing you can say.
Yeah.
Like
you can't say that later down the line.
You're right. I can imagine that forum, those series of forum threads and Reddit posts and et cetera, in whatever their time frame is. Like, oh yeah, they just nerfed XP in half.
Yeah.
Grind game now. Lols. Like, no. Okay, fine.
Yeah, this is apparently a very temporary thing. Like they said they had 80% of the axe content finished and polished. They just had to make the decision: did they release end game for people to actually play with, or did they finish the campaign?
Enough of us work in software that this is definitely absolutely 100% a temporary thing.
Yeah.
Rings just a few alarm bells.
Yup.
To be fair, they did rip it out of POE1.
Yeah, this is a thing that they did in POE1 as well.
By which you mean are doing actively in POE1? Because I'm pretty sure I play through a bunch of areas and then play through a bunch of those the exact same areas again.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do that trick again. But POE1 used to have normal, cruel, and merciless, I believe, in which we played through Acts 1 through 3 times, and then 1 through 4 3 times. And then when they added Act 5, they also added Acts 6 through 10, which, yes, use the same areas, but it's not explicitly the same campaign again.
This does explain some of the way that story plays out.
Yeah, like,
What, did you not know Act 3 and or Act 4 were previously the end of the game?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, when it rolled out, like, the Act 3 conclusion was the end of the game.
When Act 3 was what? Oh, Act 3 was
Dominus.
Dominus, yeah.
Okay.
Dominus, then Malachi.
And then was at any point in Act 5 the end of the game?
No, when Act 5 went in, that's when the rest of the game went in.
Okay.
It also has a
I guess
freaking
at that
great
point-
cutscene.
I guess at that point, like, if you have played that campaign over and over, the player base is probably really ready to hate some more Athens.
I highly suggest going and watching the cutscene. It's pretty great. Like, it is befitting the legacy of Diablo cutscenes, at least as far as I'm concerned.
It's
the game's opening?
Yeah, the new
it's
cinematic.
certainly very blood sacrifice heavy.
They may or may not be growing a new beast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they mentioned that's what the main plot is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to go just as well as it did the first time.
But hey, Kodra, Sanctum's in the game.
Sanctum's in the game? I
Yes.
mean, okay, I need to stress, I only like Sanctum because I had a build that was good at it, and because I had a specific item I wanted to try and get out of there that I never did because it was nonsense.
But you can do Sanctum instead of Lab.
That doesn't sound better. What? No.
There's going to be 3 ways of unlocking your ascendancies.
Well, 2 in early access.
2 in the early access. Either Ultimatum, which is essentially like a new version of Ultimatum, or Sanctum, which is called something else. And in the Q&A, the multi-hour Q&A, it was kind of hinted that Trial of the Ancestors is the third one.
I like one of those options, and it's Trial of the Ancestors.
Honestly, I kind of like the mechanics of Sanctum. I just think the tuning is whack.
The tuning is so whack, and the problem is that Sanctum is a build-specific event. So is Trial of the Ancients as well. So is
those are
Ultimatum.
nearly opposite builds.
Yeah, they are 100% opposite builds. Like, I hate all 3 of those options, actually.
Yeah, apparently this version of Sanctum takes your defenses into account more than the current version, and also sets your resolve based on what your current health is.
So it takes your defenses into account, right? But let's be clear. When we say defenses, we just mean armor, evasion, energy shield. What we don't mean is anything like regeneration.
Right. Yeah.
Which
and that's kind of the one that always bricks me, is like, I need regeneration.
I was about to say, so how many builds are running out there in Melee that are not planning on mostly just regenerating their health?
Or leeching it back.
Yeah. Heck, even like ES builds. What ES builds out there are not leeching ES?
Yeah.
Like, this is a bad solution. Wow. Oh, man. That's...
We'll see how it actually shakes out in reality.
Well, and
And the sad thing is,
Trial of the Ancients was fun, except that Trial of the Ancients has had a problem where you basically became too tall to ride.
Yeah, and I think if it's got like fixed difficulties, like the Labyrinth does, it's going to be less of a problem.
That'll be less of a problem as long as Trial of the Ancients doesn't have like become too tall to ride, and the difficulty isn't like actually the only way to do this is with a like super tanky build that just goes and attacks towers. As long as that's not the only solution, we're okay.
I don't particularly love Ultimatum, but like I'm gonna do the Ultimatum.
I hate Ultimatum so much
because it's the easiest. Especially if you build a tanky character, Ultimatum is no big deal.
Oh, is Ultimatum the I hope you build a tanky character or else get out?
Ultimatum is we're going to do 10 waves of increasingly difficult things, and also we're going to stack a bunch of modifiers that make your life miserable. And we're going to keep ratcheting, like,
be
going to give you, be super tanky or get out.
I mean, to be fair, it's the exact opposite problem of Sanctum, which is be super glass cannon or get out.
Oh yeah, no, I don't disagree. I am willing to say Sanctum is both. Bad design too. All of these sound terrible.
The ultimatum they showed is a little different than the ultimatums currently in PoE.
Yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
And the Sanctum is also significantly different than the one that is in PoE currently. So I don't know, but like the roots of these things is Ultimatum and Sanctum.
Somebody at one point commented to me that like, oh, you should love Sanctum because it's exactly the kind of thing for the kinds of builds you like. And I'm like, that is like saying that the auto fail stealth section in an action game I should like because I like stealth games.
Yeah.
No. I may dislike auto fail stealth sections more than Bell does. And I feel the same about Sanctum. I don't actually enjoy Sanctum at all.
Again, I do like Sanctum. I think it's tuned not great.
Yeah,
I have some hope that with this chance to go in and make it again from scratch, they don't have to put Sanctum is tuned the way it is because the rewards are tuned the way they are. I don't think it needs to be like that.
I think I don't understand why it needs to have a separate health pool.
I mean, the original idea was specifically to reward glass cannon builds. Like to go, yes, you need to dodge things, but really what that ended up being is only your damage output matters.
And also your damage projection.
Yes.
Yes, you need to be off-screening things to succeed at Sanctum.
But it has a separate health pool for a reason that I quite frankly do agree with, which is attrition, which is not a thing that you would otherwise get in PoE. That's just not a thing.
But I don't know that PoE is a game that plays well with attrition.
I mean, Delve is trying to give me an attrition, but I also just go diving down the tunnels and ignoring the candles.
It's really not.
Anyway, I am very looking forward to it in 2 weeks.
So when is it available for everyone?
So
define everyone.
When am I able to play it?
In 2 weeks, you pay $30.
Oh.
Yeah. So basically, the entry points are anyone that has had a lifetime spend of 500 will get a key for free, and otherwise there is a $30 supporter pack that gets you access.
Oh, okay, sure.
Also, like all of the other cosmetic supporter packs include access.
Yeah. So like any of the cosmetic supporter packs this time give access, but also like there's keys going out to people who have, bought big packs in the past.
I will note that the line they set is exactly the line of the giant pack they put out every year.
Yep. But it's lifetime, not having ever actually like gotten one of those.
Right.
But yeah, like so right now you can go on the site, $30 get you access. And I think you get to like download the soundtrack or something like that. There's some other little things, but it's like, it's basically, $30 is the price of early access.
I do not know when free access will be. It is going to be a free-to-play game, but they haven't said that yet. They haven't said when that'll be.
And all of these characters will be going into early access standard because they're planning on doing several leagues while in early access until they feel like it is safe to have characters that will live forever.
So they're not going to go into... they're going to go into a standard that I don't care about even more than the standard I already don't care about.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. Early
Cool.
access standard is going to be remember when that existed.
I don't care about standard.
Like, I already don't care about standard.
So, whatever.
Right, yeah, like it's no big deal. But yeah,
That's the other thing. Like, I don't normally like early access games like this, but like seasonal model means I also don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever's available is whatever's available, and whatever's available next time will be something different. Whatever.
Yes, I love the seasonal reset of ARPGs.
I do appreciate it.
It's like my favorite part. Like,
I did not think I would like this, but I do actually, having done this a few times now.
The Witch?
The whole seasonal reset thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it messes with my MMO players' persistence of character ideas.
Yeah, for
Which is
this,
the-
Mm-hmm.
Somebody should come up with a game that's like manages to combine both. It has the persistence of character, but also has like some kind of seasonal like refresh.
I mean, Diablo 3 let you remake a character as a seasonal character, a thing I did quite frequently. But also that game has like no character customization at all.
I wish PoE would do that, honestly. Because, like, I don't need half the characters that I have, but I'm too lazy to strip them and delete them.
I do just straight up delete them.
I do feel like that if there was any game that could potentially do this, it would be, and again, probably not because their story isn't built this way, it would be Final Fantasy XIV, where, like, your character is already just, like, a vessel to pour mechanics upon. But there's the way they tell stories doesn't really go for a seasonal model.
Right. I mean, I had a blast playing Pandaria Remix in World of Warcraft, which was the ARPGification of WoW. And if they did that as a seasonal reset thing, like, I thought that would be kind of fun. But they have to, like, crank up the XP gain and, you know, crank up the drops to make that viable in an MMO shell. I mean, seasonal resets can be very healthy for games because, like, they bring back players on a specific cadence.
Yes.
And we've already had this conversation before, but it's like, great. Like, okay, I'm not into this right now. I could just set out this season knowing that there'll be really no problem if I skip one or two and then come back later. Anyway, we have probably gone over. Any final thoughts about anything?
Griller pillars are terrible.
Terrible.
I don't even know what that means.
It's IAE for any sickos that are into Star Citizen the way I am. So if you feel like playing for free, they've added a lot this year. They're racing to add even more. It's going to be interesting. The largest ship they've ever made came out like today or yesterday. I haven't played it in a bit. I've been very busy, but I am very interested to jump in and see all of the updates because they've been like pretty significant. All the way to their flight model has been updated to make it more new player friendly and more intuitive.
I was gonna ask how many people can the new ship support?
Like 16.
Wow,
It's huge. It's honestly like comically huge because there's not really anything for it to do in the game, but hey, they promised it and they delivered it.
Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
good night.
good night.
See ya.